Thank you for joining us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. The degradation of the environment is estimated to be responsible for at least a quarter of the global total burden of disease. That is according to a United Nations Environment Program report titled Healthy Environment, Healthy People. This environment refers to the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, and the ecosystems which sustain us. Today on Earthfile, we focus on the links between the environment and our health. Do stay with us. Progress in a range of environmental sectors has yielded improvements in health outcomes with substantial economic, financial, and social gains in the last decades. The world has met the Millennium Development Goal target of halving the proportion of people without access to improved sources of water 5 years ahead of schedule. The success phase out of nearly 100 ozone-depleting substances means that up to 2 million cases of skin cancer and many millions of eye cataracts may be prevented each year by 2030 thanks to the healing of the ozone layer. But challenges remain. In 2012, an estimated 12.6 million deaths globally were attributed to the environment.
Our economies in the 21st century, in the name of development, have actually begun to kill an extraordinary number of people. If we go by the available statistics that the World Health Organization releases, then almost 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 premature deaths that occur every day, every month, every year on our planet are actually caused by ourselves. That is, in judicial terms, sometimes called manslaughter or murder. You know, whether it is microplastics in the oceans that come back into the food chain and into our bodies, whether it is the 30-year effort to deal with a hole in the ozone layer that was causing us enormous amount of concern, but also skin cancers in their millions into the future, we have managed to succeed in phasing out and phasing down ozone-depleting substances. Very often, people may not even have realized that when they found a substance or a technology that seemed to offer enormous advantages, that it would one day contribute to the over 12 million premature deaths a year.
A shift away from infectious, parasitic, and nutritional diseases owing to a higher share of people having access to safe water and sanitation to non-communicable diseases is evident.
Over the last century, we've seen this shift from communicable diseases, in other words, contagions, to non-communicable diseases. So these are the diseases of this century. But the numbers start to really impinge upon the way we live and where we live. We need to get to the root of it. We need to get to the causes of why the environment is now such a preeminent and important issue when it comes to human health.
Sub-Saharan Africa, where 23% of deaths are attributable to the environment, is the only region where the burden of infectious, parasitic, and nutritional diseases is higher than that of non-communicable diseases are on the rise. The highest prevalence of non-communicable diseases is attributable to exposure to chemicals, poor air quality, and unhealthy lifestyles. While the environmental effects on health represent 23% of deaths globally, the figure increases to 26% for children under 5 years and to 25% for adults between the ages of 50 and 75. The difference in total impact is 2% points higher for men than women, mostly as a result of occupational injuries, the employed percentage of men being globally about 50% higher than that of women.
Cook stoves and traditional biomass cooking and heating that happens in poor households, or whether it is the rich world that is suffocating on its own smog, on PM 2.5 particulate matter and black carbon in the great urban centers of the world, these are things that we should simply not accept any longer. And it is environmental quality that defines also quality of life and human well-being.
Air pollution is the world's largest single environmental risk to health. Some 7 million people across the world die each year as a result of everyday exposure to poor air quality. who is affected depends on exposure and occupation.
People need to understand that protecting the environment is not a luxury. Environment is not a second-tier problem, it's a first-tier problem. You need to protect the environment to have a healthy planet. It's essential that we have a planet where we limit pollutants so that people are not suffering from death and disease that is avoidable. A WHO report to emphasize how important the environment is to human health has said that air pollution is responsible for 7 million deaths a year. In addition, it is the 8th leading cause of death from all causes. So we can't be cavalier or afford to ignore a problem that is the 8th leading cause of death in the world, the 8th largest killer.
In some countries, simply preparing a meal is a major risk to health because of indoor air pollution, with 4.3 million deaths attributed to household air pollution arising from cooking with solid fuels. Climate change is acknowledged as a major health risk multiplier, with existing effects that are expected to increasingly affect human health, including through negative changes to land, oceans, biodiversity and access to fresh water, and the increasing frequency and higher impact of natural disasters. Climate change will have a detrimental effect on the environmental and social determinants of health, from the availability of clean air and water to heat shocks, food security and shelter, and has the potential for wide-ranging systemic impact on food availability and large-scale disasters. It has been identified as the defining issue for public health during this century and the biggest global health threat of the 21st century.
The very fabric of our